Little Hannah's resting, and I just thought she looked cute, so I thought I'd show her to you guys, like, while I'm talking here. But it's really strange. I had a video the other day that I put out at about 5 o'clock in the morning, about 3 or 4 days ago, that I saw a rainbow around the moon. And then I saw that Sister Gigi said that, Kim Fisher, and I believe it was Lashara Pinksley, had a dream, and that it said something about a black moon and a rainbow. And I know that I briefly saw, even though I haven't been on the tube much this week or anything, I haven't had much of a chance to. I've had a lot of doctor visits and such on mine and Alex's part. But in either case, I did see that Kim Fisher had reported on a couple of different rainbows that she had seen, and also Brother Todd today on his video had seen a rainbow too. And I got to thinking about, it's God's promise. It's a covenant, right? That when the rainbow was seen in the sky, it was right after the flood. And it's a promise of God to man. And that's a covenant with many. It sure is. And I got to thinking about Abraham's covenant, that even, I believe Abraham was even put to sleep, just like the way that, just like the way Adam was put to sleep when God made Eve. And there were a couple of different times in the Bible that it mentioned things like that. I guess he didn't even want to make sure that that even Abraham messed it up, right? Because we're all human, right? Even Father Abraham, and wants to make sure that he wanted to make sure that he, as God, fulfilled all parts of that covenant, because it was really his covenant given, and it spoke of many to come, that his descendants would be as numerous as the stars in the sky and the sands of the seashore, and all these things. And isn't that true? The Ishmael and the Isaac, right? And even to this day, and that would be, a covenant that's already in place, is what Daniel 9 speaks of, that it says that he will confirm a covenant with many. And, so I think that, this being called I think they called it the Abrahamic Accord, or Abraham's Accord, or something like that, is what President Trump had called it. And it just makes you wonder. And it's just kind of like, I think that the Lord a lot of times does use things like that, almost like a play on words. Like a lot of people were saying back during the last election that, Trump and Pence, like trumpets, like, we're close to hearing the trumpet, when we see these things. And, there could be something to that. I mean, I think that God speaks in different ways to us. And also there's a part in the Bible where he says, strive to enter in through the narrow gate. And I don't think it's a coincidence that that the vaccine and all these things, that many will clamor to get that when it first comes out. And it's from Bill Gates and Melinda Gates, or the Gates Foundation. And so that will be a broad gate, right? Not the narrow gate. And so I was just thinking about all of these things. And, guys, I think that we're very close to leaving. I think that even back when, and as many of you all know, I've been really sick over the last several months, and I haven't been on here much, reporting on anything, or I haven't really heard that much either, in terms of like, any additional things. But I mean, I don't think that you have to necessarily hear something, from the Lord all the time when you're seeing it play out in real time in front of you. I mean, we're seeing so many signs now that, if someone can't see, they probably are not going to see. I hate to say it that way, but they probably won't see it until we're gone, guys. And I know that a lot of you guys have reached out to me, and I've seen comments on other channels where you all have said, like, I've tried to speak to my family members, or I've tried to speak to this friend or that friend or my old buddy from college, and they're just not listening. And I had to finally step away from them, or I feel awkward when I bring it up anymore, because I've worn them out with it, and they just don't want to hear it. And there are so many that have been basically disowned by their own family members here. Even though we have an eternal family with Jesus. And all I can say is, I believe that once we are gone, I believe that a lot of those people will be what we call the Tribulation Saints. And and they'll know, the second that we're gone, because, the Apostle Paul said that nothing that we do for the Lord will be in vain. And the Lord said, my word will not come back to me void. And I believe that's whether he's speaking it out, we're speaking it out, it's being spoke out from a pulpit or from a person here on YouTube that loves the Lord, and, such as myself or you guys, right? And so anyway, it's just a large confirmation, to me would be just seeing the things that we're seeing now. I don't think that it's a day where we have to have necessarily all kinds of strange signs and wonders, but yet at the same time, we are seeing signs in the sun, moon, and stars, and the earthquakes in diverse places, and the wars and rumors of wars, and the pestilence and famine and all those things we are seeing. And it's just as Jesus spoke out, if you look at the Olivet Discord, for example, it talks about the things that will happen, leading up to Jesus coming back, and the sign of his coming, and the things that will happen during the tribulation. And whether you're looking at Matthew 24, Mark 13, or Luke 21, it's virtually almost word for word the same. It was recorded almost the same, because Jesus wanted us to pay attention to these things. And think about it, guys. Those were, the most, I suppose, curious, or the ones that are mostly mentioned. I believe that those were the same disciples that came and asked him, was Peter, James, and John, I think, were the same disciples that were there on the Mount of Transfiguration whenever Jesus was there with Moses and Elijah, who represent obviously the law with Moses and the prophets with Elijah. And what did God say, or what did Jesus say when the Pharisees tried to stump him on what is the most important commandment, when he said, love your God with all your heart, mind, body, and soul. And the second is likened to the first, love your neighbor as yourself. And he said, upon this hangs all the laws and prophets. And for sure on that day on the Mount of Transfiguration, when their faces shone like the sun and Jesus shined like the sun, I think that it is, the three that were there, it was one of the times in the Bible where the sky was broken open and they actually heard the voice of God. And, the people were afraid back in where the Jews wandered in the wilderness for 40 years and they had heard the voice of God. They said, oh, it's terrible. It's just so frightful. Please, Moses, we just want to hear you. Right. And then also, John the Baptist heard, and the witnesses thereof that saw Jesus being baptized in the river Jordan by John the Baptist heard the sky broke open and heard the Lord say, this is my son in whom I'm well pleased. And that's also what he said on the Mount Transfiguration Day. He said, this is my son in whom I'm well pleased, listen to him, basically. And he had said that these things were not to be revealed as of yet. Because why? Because Jesus had not been crucified yet. And if they had known all of those things and truly had faith to believe, they would not have crucified the King of Glory, is how Paul put it in the scriptures. So just some things I'm thinking on today and pondering, and I hope that this message finds you well. And obviously little Hannah's snoozing, so I hope that we'll talk later this weekend. I love you guys.